Hi guys, Jared here, and this is going to be a fantastic episode for our Saturn Day feature. What I'm going to talk about today is a game that many people know a little bit about, but not too much, and that game is Sonic Xtreme. It was being developed by Sega of America way back in the day, and it was supposed to be like the de facto Sonic game. Through some politics, it just never sort of happened, and then it was one of the reasons that led to the downfall of the Sega Saturn as a whole. But what we're going to do today is actually go back. I've got a whole bunch of notes here. I'm going to have some video footage and some pictures showing up in this section right here. And why I decided to do a video strictly talking about Sonic Xtreme is because there's been some big news. Back in, I believe it was November, there's been more or less a 70% complete version of Sonic Xtreme has been leaked. And now fans are slowly piecing this together, and they will be eventually able to release Sonic Xtreme. Yeah, we'll have some fan-made levels most likely and things like that. But the idea that this game will see the light of release through, the gray market, I guess you would call it, is unbelievably exciting, and it will go to show sort of what the team at Sega of America was working on. So let's go back. There's a fantastic post that I will link in the description to NeoGAF that will more or less go over everything I'm going to talk about. There's a lot more information than what I'm going to mention just here, but I think it's important that we talk about this because of what it represents and what an impact this game could have potentially had on the Sega Saturn and on the gaming industry as a whole. So to begin, we are going to go way back to before the dawn of the 3D era, back to the Genesis and Super Nintendo day. And there was a developer, I believe he was a developer. I know he worked for Sega of America, but I'm not entirely sure what his role was. His name was Chris Sen. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And he originally pitched Sega of America a Sonic game that would have used an isometric view or camera angle, and it would have been a side-scrolling sort of game, but with an isometric view. And there was a lot of interest in this, and this would eventually be sort of shelved for the time being, and then they were sort of like, well, we're working on Mars, which was the 32X, and they're like, so why don't you port that over to the 32X? And so he started to actually develop the game on the 32X, and he made a pitch video using the Amiga 1200, which I'm actually going to be showing you in the right here. This is the actual pitch video. There are some concept videos which have cleaned up a little bit, not videos, but screenshots and whatnot that have been cleaned up a little bit. And yes, obviously this would not have been the game, but this was just a pitch video showing what he was sort of, conceptualizing where he wanted to go. And anyways, let's see. So yeah, so from there, the game was actually officially green-lit, or green-lighted, or whatever you want to call it, for the Sega Saturn. Now obviously, you have to think here, who knows how much development actually went into those previous versions? Where they actually started? I doubt very much on the Genesis anything had sort of happened, because, well, primarily it was just a pitch. It hadn't been officially greenlit yet. When it went to the 32X, though, most likely that would have started, because if it was okayed from this pitch video, had it actually been, thumbs up, okay, let's do it, well, that means that, people had started working on it, but whatever. Anyways, from that point forward, the Sega of America team actually managed to get their hands on the Nights into Dreams engine. Now, why is that significant? Well, it's significant for a couple of reasons. You see, Sega, as I mentioned a long time ago, a couple of years ago, when I did my video for why the Sega Saturn failed, my opinion, and how it could have been saved, one of the big things that I talked about a lot was the fact that the management at Sega was crap. Like, you had the European office, the North American office, and the Japanese office, and they weren't talking to each other. And because of that, things like this happen. So essentially, they started working on Sonic Xtreme using the Knights engine, and it was really turning out nice. It looked good. So naturally, when you show this to your superiors, what do you think they're going to say? They're going to be like, damn, stop what you're doing with that prototype build that you had, and shift all development into using the Knights into Dreams engine because, damn, son, looks good. So that's exactly what they did. Now, let me make sure my notes are up to par here. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing that happened was, I believe there was some sort of a show. You'll see a little snippet here where essentially they had built, I think it was like a boss stage or something like that, where whatever, you could play and defeat a boss using this particular engine, and Yuji Naka found out, and he hadn't been told, Sonic Team hadn't been told that Sega of America was using the engine that they had worked on for Nights into Dreams, or were working on at that time, and so he threatened to leave Sega in order to stop the development of this game using this particular engine. And so Sega caved, obviously, because Sega of Japan probably told Sega of America, like, hey, just stop. So essentially, they had worked on this game for around a year or so at this point in time, and now we're left with nothing. Yeah, you had art assets and things like that, but your actual game engine was gone. So you had to start from scratch, and they wanted this game out for the holiday season of 1996 to compete against Super Mario 64, and I believe also Crash Bandicoot was out around that time. But anyways, so imagine, you just got totally screwed. We don't know how many times this game has been rewritten, because it was that time, obviously, where it was using the Knights engine, but before the Knights engine, after the pitch phase, it was using its own internally developed engine, and now they had to either go back and reuse that engine or start from scratch all over again. So you can see how this would eventually lead to the game's overall cancellation. I mean, right now, you're like, well, there's no way we're going to get this game out by 1996 by holiday. It's impossible. Now the thing is, what's interesting with this is, why did Yuji Naka do that? Now there's a lot of rumors to this that it's just like, oh, he's vain, you know, like he's like, it's my engine, damn it. But the truth of the matter is, most likely, is if this game really was shaping up to be as impressive as it looked in some of these screenshots or footage or whatever that have been leaked online, my guess is he probably didn't want to be sort of beaten. He didn't want it to be like, well, wait a second, this is my engine, and Knights now is going to be totally overlooked by this Sonic game that I had nothing to do with, even though I created Sonic. No, man, up yours. So we don't know. We don't know what the whole truth is of that. But I can see that. I know people are just like, oh, well, he was vain. I don't think it was so much that as it would be that he was most likely worried that Knights would have been just totally overlooked. Imagine in North America, had the two competed side by side, yeah, man, we all would have ran to Sonic. But anyways, that's that. All right, so they scrapped that project, and they, like I said, they had to start over. And what they started over with was more or less what all of you guys know. It's the classic footage where you got like the fisheye view and Sonic is running around all over the place. That's more or less, that was the game that they were working on at the very end before the project was ultimately scrapped. Now, years later, Chris Sen, I really hope I'm pronouncing your name right if you're watching this, sorry if I'm not, he leaked absolutely everything he had on the game online. The only thing was that he did not have the actual game engine, but he had everything else. So he had like art assets, he even had levels themselves, everything you could possibly imagine. But what's interesting is that this particular version was a PC version that was based off of what the main programmer of the game, Ofer Alon, had been working on and had been writing. And now this is really, really interesting, because you're like, well, wait a sec, PC version? Now normally console games always start off, not like normally, they always start off as PC games in essence, okay? They're built on PCs. But what made this unique was it was actually a PC version meant to be released on PC which was a little bit confusing or a little bit perplexing. How did that, like, what? So, in 2010, a user over at the Sonic Retro forums or site by the name of Sonic, he actually created sort of a clip viewer where you could go through the levels. It wasn't a non-playable demo, but it would still allow you to see the actual levels that were being built in this final version of Sonic Xtreme, which is very, very, very interesting. But the plot thickens here. Let's go back to this PC thing. You see, in 1995, Sega and NVIDIA were actually teaming up, and actually did team up, on the NV1, which was NVIDIA's first 3D GPU or graphics card. Now, what you might not know, unless you actually own one, that graphics card actually has a port for a Sega Saturn controller, and it actually supports 5 Sega Saturn games. The PC version, I would assume. I've never actually tried this. I don't know too much about this, but I'm trying to give you guys much information. I have researched this, so I'm not just whipping this out of my butt. So the 5 games are Virtua Fighter Remix, Battle Arena Toshiden, NASCAR, Panzer Dragoon, and some special, version of Descent. And why this is so intriguing and what sort of bridges all of this together is obviously Sonic Xtreme was going to be one of these games. And so that this version that leaked was most likely that particular version using that particular SDK. You see, the NV1 graphics card had its own development kit, which would essentially transform your PC into a Saturn development kit, in which would allow you to make video games. Now, not the public release version, obviously. That would just transform your PC into Saturn mode and allow you to play Sega Saturn games, PC versions of Sega Saturn games. So this was basically Sega's way of getting into the PC market, which you all know that was happening at that point in time. And so what's interesting is that's the missing piece. So with that SDK and that graphics card and what was leaked, you put all of this together, and yeah, there are missing components, there are. But what's been really interesting is that they found that there is a Saturn build within all of that, and it's actually 70% complete. And what's incredible about this, guys, is that the chances are very high we will get a playable version that we'll be able to burn to a CDR one day and play this on the Sega Saturn. Now, I know that there are ways for you to go right now, actually, and check out, I think it's like demonstration videos or things like that, where they burn it onto a CDR, and you can actually check it out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this story along. I'm going to ask you guys to follow this story along. If there's any information that I'm missing, go ahead, put it in the comments, call me a moron, whatever you want. But this is really big. I mean, this is huge. This is a game that could have actually helped save the life of the Sega Saturn, although when they got Bernie Stolar in, I don't think anything could have helped that. But what's really interesting now is that we could potentially have this game released, get the fans to finish this game, and all you'll need is a modded Sega Saturn, or potentially go through the PC route and go like that. But for me, I would just love to be able to play this on my Sega Saturn, and I am in the market for a modded Sega Saturn, so that not only can I cover things like this, but that I can also cover things like the Shining Force 3 fan translation project for all 3 scenarios, plus the premium disc. I can also check out Dragon Force 2 and the different scenarios there, and so on and so forth. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'm very excited, very jazzed to potentially get my hands on a working version of Sonic Xtreme for the Sega Saturn, and that is pretty awesome. So I hope you enjoyed this Saturn day, and I've got lots more features like this, a lot of game reviews coming up, but for right now, go out there, find some information, hit the description button. I'm going to have some links there, well, primarily one link to the NeoGAF boards, which then veer off. There's links all in there to many other sources, such as Sonic Retro and other forums. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this informative, and I hope you're as excited about it as I am. So I'll see you guys soon with hopefully an update on this interesting game.